for their accustomed rest, when they observed that an enormous swarm of grasshoppers had settled at the mouth of a creek close by. Two or three deep they covered the soil, myriads and myriads of them adhering to every shrub. "The natives eat those grasshoppers," said Benedict, "and like them too." The remark produced an instant effect. All hands were busied in collecting them, and a large supply was quickly gathered. The canoe might have been filled 10 times over. Grilled over a slow fire, they were found to be very palatable eating, and in spite of his qualms of conscience, Benedict himself made a hearty meal. But although the gnawings of absolute hunger were thus assuaged, all the travellers began to long most anxiously for the voyage to come to an end. The mode of transit indeed might be less exhausting to the bodily powers than a land march would have been, but the excessive heat by day, the damp mists at night, and the incessant attacks of mosquitoes, all combined to render the passage extremely trying. There was no telling how long it would last, and Dick was equally uncertain whether it might end in a few days or be protracted for a month. The direction with which the stream was taking was itself a subject of perplexity. A fresh surprise was now in store. As Jack a few mornings afterwards was standing at the bow, peering through an aperture in the grass canopy above him, he suddenly turned round and cried, "The sea! the sea!" Dick started forwards, and looked eagerly in the same direction. A large expanse of water was visible in the horizon, but after having surveyed it for a moment or two, he said, "No, Jack, it is not the sea; it is a great river; it is running west, and I suppose this river runs into it. Perhaps it is the Zaire." "Let us hope it is," said Mrs. Weldon earnestly. Most cordially did Dick Sands re echo her words, being well aware that at the mouth of the river were Portuguese villages, where a refuge might assuredly be found. For several succeeding days the canoe, still concealed by its covering, floated on the silvery surface of this new found stream. On either side the banks became less arid, and there seemed everything to encourage the few survivors of the "Pilgrim" to believe that they would soon see the last of the perils and toils of their journey. They were too sanguine. Towards 3 o'clock on the morning of the 18th, Dick, who was at his usual post at the bow, fancied he heard a dull rumbling towards the west. Mrs. Weldon, Jack, and Benedict were all asleep. Calling Hercules to him, he asked him whether he could not hear a strange noise. The night was perfectly calm, and not a breath of air was stirring. The negro listened attentively, and suddenly, his eyes sparkling with delight, exclaimed, "Yes, captain, I hear the sea." Dick shook his head and answered, "It is not the sea, Hercules." "Not the sea?" cried the negro; "then what can it be?" "We must wait till daybreak," replied Dick, "and meanwhile we shall have to keep a sharp look-out." Hercules returned to his place, but only to continue listening with ever increasing curiosity. The rumbling perceptibly increased, till it became a continued roar. With scarcely any intervening twilight, night passed into day. Just in front, scarcely more than half a mile ahead, a great mist was hanging over the river. It was not an ordinary fog, and when the sun rose, the light of the dawn caused a brilliant rainbow to arch itself from shore to shore. In a voice so loud that it awoke Mrs. Weldon, Dick gave his orders to Hercules to steer for the bank. "Quick, quick, Hercules! Ashore, ashore! There are cataracts close ahead!" And so it was. Within little more than a quarter of a mile, the bed of the river sank abruptly some 100 feet, and the foaming waters rushed down in a magnificent fall with irresistible velocity. A few minutes more, and the canoe must have been swallowed in the deep abyss. End of Part the Second, Chapter 18. Recording by Alex C. Talander, Davis, California. www.alexctalander.com